Subscribe to the channel right now so you don't miss a single piece of knowledge worth paying attention to. If you enjoy deep dives into coins that most people overlook but serious collectors quietly value, then you're in the right place. Today we're going to talk about one of those coins that looks ordinary on the surface but carries a story and potential that only experienced collectors really understand. Let me ask you something. Have you ever picked up a coin, thought it was just loose change, and then tossed it into a drawer to forget about later? Most of us have. But men who have lived a good number of years know that value is not always obvious at first glance. Sometimes it's hidden, waiting for the right moment, the right market, and the right collector to recognize it. That's exactly what we're exploring today with the 50 Kurus coin from Turkey, dated 2016. Now, the 50 Kurus is a half-lira piece. In everyday transactions, it's small. You might use it to pay for a simple item, a piece of candy, or a fraction of a bus fare. Most people never think twice about it. But coins are not just currency. They're tiny pieces of history, national identity, and economic storylines. For those who take the time to learn, there is meaning in every line and symbol. The 50 Kurus from 2016 was minted during a period of economic challenges and transformations for Turkey. The country was navigating global pressures, local shifts, and its unique position between continents. In times like these, even the coins reflect more than just monetary value. They reflect resilience, continuity, and cultural significance. When you look at the coin itself, you see a design that is familiar to anyone who's handled Turkish currency. One side shows the denomination clearly, 50 Kurus. Surrounding the number are artistic elements that echo Turkey's deep cultural heritage. On the opposite side, you'll see the national emblem and sometimes the portrait or motif associated with that year's design. The craftsmanship speaks to a nation proud of its legacy and rooted in centuries of civilization. But before we dig deeper into what makes this specific coin interesting, let's address something crucial. Most of these coins were minted in huge numbers for everyday use. That means the vast majority of them have seen circulation. They've been carried in pockets, jangled in purses, dropped on sidewalks, scratched by keys, or lost altogether. Over time, the condition of a coin is one of the biggest factors that determines whether it's merely ordinary change or something worth holding on to. Collectors understand this better than most. For someone in their 50s, 60s, or beyond, collecting is not about quick thrills. It's about perspective. It's about recognizing that what seems common today may become rare tomorrow, not because fewer were made, but because fewer have survived in good condition. A coin that maintained its original luster, sharp details, and clean surfaces can be worth far more than the ones that have spent years in circulation. Think about it. In your younger years, you might have held coins, old bills, even stamps. You might have passed them around, shown them to friends or family. But if you look at those old collections now, you'll realize how many of those items have faded, worn, or disappeared entirely. Collecting coins is similar. The passage of time weeds out the ordinary and elevates the exceptional. That brings us to why some collectors are watching the 2016 50 Kurus more closely than you might expect. On the surface, it's not a rare coin, but coins that remain in excellent condition are becoming harder to find. These well-preserved examples, especially those that have been carefully stored, are the ones that serious collectors pay attention to. Now consider this. Coin collectors don't just look at the date and denomination. They look for subtle things, variations in strike, slight differences in the lettering, surface quality, and whether the edges and details are crisp. Over time, dies wear down. When that happens, the coins produced later in the batch can look slightly different from the ones struck earlier. These small differences, invisible to most people on a casual glance, can be significant to a trained eye. For a man in his late 50s or 60s, this element of discovery can be deeply satisfying. It's not about following hype. It's about understanding nuance. It's about holding something that could have easily been discarded and realizing its story and rarity. That's the sort of satisfaction that doesn't fade with passing trends. Another factor that makes coins like the 2016 50 Kurus compelling is generational timing. Think about the coins you handled decades ago. At the time, they were just coins. But now, some of those same coins from the 1960s, 70s, or 80s are collector's items. Why? Because over time, the ones in great condition became fewer and interest grew. The same cycle happens again and again. So even though the 50 Kurus from 2016 might still be considered a modern coin to many, it's already at an age where collectors start paying attention. The best pieces are those that never entered heavy circulation, the ones you might find in a collection, unopened envelope, or coin album. These coins often show details with a sharpness that circulation coins lack. Their surfaces remain clean, free of nicks and scratches. This is exactly what high-grade collectors search for. And let's talk about history for a moment. Turkey has a history that stretches back millennia. From the Byzantine era to the Ottoman Empire and into the modern republic, every phase has left traces in coins. The 50 Kurush itself is part of a lineage of currency that tells a national story. For collectors who appreciate heritage, that narrative holds weight. These are not just pieces of metal. They are tiny witnesses to economic and cultural evolution. Now, I want to emphasize something that separates casual interest from true collecting insight. Most people think rarity is only about low mintage numbers. Not true. It's about survival, condition, and demand. A coin minted in large numbers can still be rare in high grades if most specimens have been worn down or lost. This is exactly the case with the 2016 50 Kurush. Most are out there in worn condition, but the ones that have retained their original detail, those are scarce. You might ask, how do experts determine value for coins like this? They look at grading. Grading is the process of evaluating a coin's condition using established criteria. A high grade means the coin looks almost new, even after years. For modern coins, especially ones from the 21st century like the 2016 50 Kurush, finding examples that grade at the highest levels is becoming increasingly uncommon. Experienced collectors and dealers use magnification, lighting, and comparison to judge surface quality, strike strength, and eye appeal. It's a meticulous process, one that rewards patience and a trained eye. For someone who has spent decades refining their interests, this process feels familiar. It's not rushed. It's thoughtful. It's informed by experience. And when coins like this do surface in top condition at auctions or private sales, they attract attention. Collectors who understand the story and the scarcity in high grade are the ones willing to bid, sometimes aggressively, because they know that true value isn't always obvious until it's already gone. Now, let's get to what many of you are waiting for. Most 2016 50 Kurush coins remain worth near face value if they're heavily worn. That's the reality for the average piece you might find in everyday change. But collectors don't pay attention to the average. They pay attention to the exceptional. They pay attention to the coins with strong surfaces, clear details, and no signs of damage. These high-grade examples, the ones that have survived untouched for years, are increasingly rare. Serious collectors have been tracking them quietly, and the prices they're commanding reflect that. For those very rare, perfectly preserved examples of the 2016 Turkey 50 Kurush coin, the collector value in specialized circles can reach up to $680,000. So if you happen to come across a 2016 50 Kurush that looks unusually sharp, clean, and undisturbed by wear, take a closer look. Compare it with others, study the details, and consider that what seems like small change to most people could be something truly remarkable in the right hands. Thank you for watching, and remember to subscribe so you won't miss the next deep dive into coins that matter.